one time, there stood 2 homes on the site where Manoir Westmount now proudly serves as the home for more than 100 senior residents. The Rotary Club of Westmount adopted a marvelous and challenging plan to create a residence adjoined to Victoria Hall. With a great deal of collaborative effort involving priceless skills and tireless devotion, Manoir Westmount has come to fruition.
(1976) was Westmount's centennial year, and they were considering various projects for to mark the event. Something to do with a rink and recreation and a whole lot of other things. Then we sort of broadened out and invited the different people that we knew to join us in this project, and it really took off. The first such meeting was at Ascension Church, and that's when we started to take minutes and really get going. The last of those meetings was held in St. Andrew's Church on Côte St. Antoine, and John Sancton came to that meeting, and he said that Rotary were prepared to take on the project. My husband's idea was Rotary would certainly get much more financing and have many more capable people. So we went along with the Rotary project.
The Rotary Club of Westmount, which has a long record of works in the community, felt that it had nothing special doing at that particular time, and it was about time we found some major project to undertake, not only to fulfill the purpose of a service club, but to give the members something to work on, direct their talents toward, and give them a sense of achievement. To that end, the committee was named by the directors of the club to find a major project. I had the privilege of being on that committee, and it was headed by Mr. Robert Layton.
In the early 1970s, the Rotary Club of Westmount, about 50 professional and managerial skilled men from our community and then nearby communities, needed a major project. Clubs like ours attract members when they challenge them. And we realized that the tremendous history of our Westmount Rotary Club in developing and building the Unity Boys Club down on Green Avenue, and the Weirdale Youth Residence on Weirdale Square, and the summer camp in the Laurentians that the Rotarians would go up and share their affection for the young campers each summer. The minor community support projects that we had. We would help kids who wanted to make special trips or attend certain conferences or do worthwhile things. They lacked challenge because we'd done them over and over, and we could do them without too much extra effort.
As a certain number of the club felt that the community of Westmount, because of its relatively affluent nature, didn't really require a senior citizens home as much as some of the less affluent areas. However, the brainchild throughout the birth of this project was Bobby Layton.
We had to start to think in terms of big numbers. For a club of 50 members and only 60-odd thousands of dollars in trust funds, which we'd collected over the years with our garage sales and our auctions and the other things we used to do. We put a certain amount each side, waiting for the need for money. And an annual fundraising ability as a club of about $25,000.
Mr. Layton himself undertook the key chore of fundraising. And I don't mind saying he was eminently successful. He managed to raise from various sources a little over $4.5 million. We did this totally without any call upon public funds. And this is one aspect of this project that we're extremely proud of. It meant that those who lived here, what they were paying for their facilities in the residence did not have to include anything for amortization of some great debt.
We came to the Manoir 3 years ago. We looked at many retirement homes. Most of them were beyond our means. But in spite of that, the Manoir is what we liked best. The atmosphere here is wonderful.
The cost to stay here is rather lower than many other homes which don't have the facilities that we have here in Westmount. One of the important aspects relative to the Manoir, of course, was to find the proper site. A lot of work was done back in the 1977, 78, I would think, around that time, and even earlier, to find a proper site. I know that Bob Layton and Ernie Mills and a number of other Rotarians within the club were looking about trying to find a proper site.
Initially, we made a survey of about 16 sites throughout Westmount. And at that time, the most favored site was Melrose Church. And we had an option on Melrose Church, and at the last minute, the small congregation decided to renege on the option. And
John Sancton and his involvement was mainly liaison with the city to be sure that we got the assistance we needed from them. And it must not be forgotten that we were also helping them, because at the time Victoria Hall was a white elephant in their hands. They were losing money on it, and here was an excellent idea where we could develop part of Victoria Hall as part of the residence. Bob Layton came up with the idea of using the basement of Victoria Hall.
There were a number of other sites, a church next on the east side of Westmount Park, property down near Westmount Square, the green Dorchester area, one up Claremont that's halfway up the hill there in Claremont, another one near the corner of Claremont and de Maisonneuve, where there's now other properties and buildings. I think it was CPR land. But finally, and one right in the Glen, right down where there are buildings now that have since been built. But our sense was that there was a very nice marriage between the Victoria Hall property, which was dragging. There wasn't the use of it that had been when we were kids. We used to dance there. And now it was falling off. This wasn't the big need or use in the community. And with a very thoughtful mayor and council, we were able to come up with a concept that said if they would lease us that building, but then we wouldn't have to raise that extra $1 million. We would pay it in lease payments over a 20-year period, and then have a renewal for another 20 years. And this was good for the town and good for the project.
The lease itself was negotiated on behalf of the Manoir by Hunter Wilson, who was then also a member of our club, and I.
I think sort of a team effort, and everybody seemed to be backing us except the people on Lansdowne who didn't like the idea.
There was no vacant land at the corner of Lansdowne and Sherbrooke. There were two homes, 383 and 385 Lansdowne Avenue, which were situate exactly where the Manoir is now. They were right next to the little park across the street from the Manoir. So at that time we had Ernie Mills, who's a real estate agent, so he went out and visited the proprietors at the two homes at 383 and 385 Lansdowne Avenue. And after quite a few negotiations, they finally agreed to sell the two properties.
Some of the people on this particular street were concerned. What they envisaged, we weren't quite sure, but they became opposed to the bylaw that had to be passed to make that building possible. And we had, right up to the 0 hour, a very tough fight with the people in the community around here. Not the Westmount generally, but people whose homes were hereabouts. That we were demolishing a couple of homes at this top end of Lansdowne Avenue at Sherbrooke Street, and somehow or other the community would go down the tubes. The fact is that it didn't.
The choice of the site was met and overcome in a final agreement with the city of Westmount. We then had to have a referendum to see whether citizens in the local area would permit this glorious seniors residence. It's going to reduce our property values. There's going to be noise and dirt for construction. And you know that when the citizens of that community looked at it, they were so uncertain. Their vote in support on that September voting day was like 50 to 48 or 47. It was within a few votes that nearly canceled the project.
And the Westmount Examiner, of which I was the publisher and editor, was front and center on this thing. I look back and say, well, maybe some of my actions were a little bit prejudiced because of my association with the project. But nonetheless, I did my best to inform the community as to what Rotary was doing. It became very touchy at this time of the bylaw, zoning bylaw change that had to be ratified by the people in the community. I got accused of all sorts of devious activities. I'll tell you about one incident. As the time came for the vote on this zoning bylaw, the propaganda was being tossed about. And the opponents put out a piece of literature and took it door to door in the zone, which included several streets around here, and stated various things, some of which I thought, in the heat of the argument, overstretched some points. And I got a copy of this the night before the vote. I was in my office down on St. Catherine Street. At 9 o'clock in the evening, one of the Rotarians brought this thing into me. And I immediately saw red. I thought, this can't be allowed to stand. I went to a typesetting machine, and I wrote a reply right on the typesetting machine, and got the finished product to a instant printer who ground out enough copies to cover the neighborhood here. I got enough Rotarians out to go and deliver this door to door. And I think we absolutely trumped the opponents of this thing. They didn't dream that we could possibly come out with a reply before the vote. They thought they'd had the last word by distributing this thing the evening before. This was rather fun, and it's often referred to as Sancton's great coup.
I remember on a rainy day with George Clevass distributing leaflets along Lansdowne Avenue and Roslyn and the Maisonneuve Boulevard, and a lot of our members were doing that to explain to the people what we were doing.
There would be hundreds of meetings, including 7:30 a.m. breakfast at the Chateau Maisonneuve restaurant, and thousands of person hours of people doing things, looking into this and that, and discussing the benefit, the pros and cons of this and that, to resolve the issues that develop and the compromises that are essential for such a project. Rotary clubs, ours included, have many talents and resources.
That's the beauty of Rotary. Your particular classification, as you know, in Rotary, we have a member of every, or most businesses and professions And yes, each profession, each business brings to the club its particular expertise and knowledge of what they do.
The technical details that came into it are full of all kinds of personal inputs. The committee was formed under the devoted and effective chairmanship of Bud Staples. Dr. Bud, he's a dentist, now retired and living in Knowlton. But Bud was so patient and was the exact right person to bring between the human beings, me being one of them, that was very aggressively promoting. And there were others who quite naturally and logically were resisting this irresistible force with an immovable nature. But there had to be balances, and we found them.
I'm an engineer by profession, and being a Rotarian, I used my vocation to the best advantage that I could think of to help the Rotary project that we were about to start. I took an interest in the project because I was interested in seniors' facilities, and I could see that this was a way that I could assist in my capacity as an engineer.
Ray Valliere, I think, made a major contribution as the guiding force in the engineering and architectural activities.
You've heard of Russ King. He was very adamant about not going over budget, having enough money to build, not having to finance a large sum of money, which would make the whole project rather untenable for Rotary. You had to have something that we could support. We were hoping to get more funding through our benevolent donors.
Our ability to keep the project under budget, on schedule and under budget, became very critical. You can't let these things drag, it costs money. And secondly, you can't let them start to run over, which a lot of construction projects do. So we were proud that we were able to keep a lid by watching every detail. And so budget estimates had to be matched with fundraising efforts. Were we really getting the extra tens and fifties and hundreds of thousands of dollars that we would need if we were going to make that $1 million extra? From our own members and from our neighborhood and from other foundations, we were generously supported on this great project.
We were not looking for government subsidies, and of course, in order to, once you offer nursing care, then you're subject to all the regulations of the provincial government.
Finally, plans for registration and administration, that is how to set the whole thing into motion. I was one of those that felt we should be able to hire people from our own community. There's lots of expertise, but I was persuaded to accept the alternative, which was to get professional managers in, what do we call them, Central Park Lodge. And they hired the key people, and then the supplementary people, trained them, and provided the administration, and it's Cadillac, it's first class. And I think that that was a good decision.
The administration of this building, from the very beginning, and even some of the construction, a very essential part of the success was due to our hiring the Central Park Lodges to guide us in that respect. And they trained our first manager, Ress, Angela von Sender, and she was our first manager, Ress, before Jack. And she set the stamp, and now, of course, we're so damn fortunate to have a man like Jack filling our shoes, because he's doing an excellent job, too.
Central Park Lodge helped us in many features, and I'll mention one in particular, the railings in the corridors.
Ray Valliere was in here over the years, checking on this problem and that problem, or straightening this out, or improving this.
The air conditioning has many special features, which I could mention because it's in my interest and my category of involvement. One being that a building such as this exhausts a lot of air. And when you exhaust air from a building, you have to replace it. When you replace the air, It has to be heated in the winter and cooled in the summer. That air that was being exhausted came through a very up-to-date, modern type of heat exchanger where heat was transferred from the air going out of the building to the air coming into the building, being a heat transfer setup. And this piece of equipment was quite expensive, but we knew that in time it would pay for itself. We calculated back at the office that it would take 7 years for it to pay for itself. And 7 years has come and gone, and it has been very successful.
We deliberately didn't air condition this building. We were told by the experts that this was not on for seniors. Yet there were people who complained that their rooms were too hot or too cold. So you can imagine how Ray Valuers had to run around, try to straighten out these problems to the satisfaction of the residents, who, after all, were the prime beneficiaries of the project.
We saw to it that the features that we wanted in the building and had been discussed with Central Park Lodge those features were all fulfilled. I could go on. There's quite a list of special features that went into this building. I mentioned handrails. It's just a small thing, but rather important. The flooring, the carpeting, the lighting, the kitchen, getting the equipment set up, not forgetting that using a building where we're accommodating these facilities in the basement of an existing and older building like Victoria Hall.
I look back on my experience with the project. I think that the integration with the resources of Westmount with its City Hall, and I think it was very advanced thinking by that City Council, with the tremendous input of a lot of people in Rotary, but mostly the reputation of Rotary as responsible trustees that will be the fundamental source of support that made that project go, and will justify other Rotary clubs or our Rotary Club looking for ways of calling on the community to trust them to invest their charitable money in things not necessarily the usual ones. The hospitals obviously need our concern. Universities in special cases and research need our concern. But there will be a growing need to support, to supply, to reach out to the senior citizens. And I hope that our Rotary Club will continue, because of its success, to set leadership goals for the future.
This is how Manoir Westmount appears today. It is an attractive and well-maintained building. The Manoir has come a long way from the early 1970s, when the community had to search for support on a seniors residence project. When Rotary took on the challenge, an agenda was set and followed through. This entailed high levels of achievement, which were not without opposition. The people of the Rotary Club of Westmount persevered, which allowed the building itself to begin to take shape. On Friday, October 12, 1979, the Honorable Jean-Pierre Côté, Lieutenant Governor of the Province of Quebec, took pleasure in officially opening Manoir Westmount. The Mayor of Westmount, His Worship Donald C. McCallum, addressed the crowd which gathered to share the triumphant experience. Once word got out that Manoir Westmount was open for business, appreciative residents moved into their new home without delay. This is one of many beautifully decorated bedrooms at Manoir Westmount. The residents may furnish their rooms as they please. This room belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Pallavicini.
We have many friends amongst very nice residents. The staff is perfect, location ideal. We have the 24 bus right in front of our house. And we have the Westmount Library, which is wonderful to have. And for us, the most important thing is to have Westmount Park right beside us. So we spend an awful lot of time there, don't we?
Yes, we certainly do.
My wife had died, I was alone, and I didn't feel like living alone. So my daughter started looking around for a senior citizens home, and we had heard so much about the Manoir Westmount, I decided to move in here. And I've been truly grateful and happy ever since.
The residents may choose to participate in a variety of activities. These gentlemen are playing their own version of the game of billiards.
Every morning at 9 o'clock, we have about 4 or 5 of us, and those who have the time, we come down and we play it from 9 to 10.
Beautiful. Very good. And we play billiards usually from 9 until 10 o'clock. After that, I come upstairs and have a cup of coffee in our sitting room on our floor here. And then I prepare for lunch.
And breathe out.
Buff Wilson is leading a low-impact aerobics class. She plans the leisure activities for the residents with a holistic approach. This means that all of the residents' needs, both physical and emotional, are met while they live at Manoir Westmount.
Or move sideways, so there's a stretch on the side of the neck, as well as the side of your trunk, your torso. Now slow up and slow down. And up and down. And up, down. Over and over. Try not to straighten up. Keeping you bent.
The wonderful thing here is that we have complete freedom. We do exactly as we like. If we want to participate, we do. If we don't, then we don't. And no, we don't feel pressure to participate, and that's very important to us.
Some of the activities at Manoir do not entail physical participation, but rather stimulate the thoughts of the residents. Mr. James Farabee, an editor from the Montreal Gazette, visits on a regular basis to entertain the residents with knowledge of current events and important happenings.
Although in small increments in the past year and a half, it's principally been growing because of exports. And for the first time in June, we saw some sign that the consumer was coming back to life. A little money left over, and that's what you put it into. So we know that the classified ads is very sensitive to people's spending habits. And classified ads have been going up in the last 6 weeks. July was a not bad month for us. August was a little better month. You can see it by the size of the paper and the number of ads in the paper. So things are well, one doesn't set off firecrackers by any matter of means. It appears that at least something is cooking in the economy, and it's not only cooking on one burner. It seems to be cooking at least on 2 burners. When we could be cooking on 4 burners, then we'll be in really good shape. but at least some satisfaction to those who thought economists were far too pessimistic about the second quarter, that we have at least picked up some steam there. It's going to take some while before this will be translated into jobs, of course, and that's the lagging part of the economy. It always does lag, and we need to get those jobs back as quickly as possible.
Some of the residents participate in putting together a newsletter. This activity ensures that the residents are kept well informed about the goings-on in and around the manoir. This is helpful in establishing a comfortable environment, one which can be considered home.
That we know. No, you see, this place, I think, is about 124 residents, of which easily 100 are women, possibly more. I think we have we might have 20 men. I don't attend the parties, but the women, they have what they call these little drinking parties before dinner in the evening.
Pour les jeunes filles à Toronto. Mais c'est dommage qu'on veuille... Mais qu'est-ce qu'on proposait au lieu de la grammaire anglaise, une grammaire américaine?
The afternoon, as part of the holistic approach to leisure activities, the residents are encouraged to improve their French language skills, a remarkable endeavor for people of any age.
Il y a deux écoles de pensée. Est-ce qu'on fait un dictionnaire qui représente ce que les gens disent, ou on fait un dictionnaire pour enseigner aux gens comment le dire? Et c'est différent. Oui. N'est-ce pas? Un dictionnaire, est-ce que c'est didactique ou bien si, j'ai trouvé ce mot, on va le mettre dans le dictionnaire?
Ce que m'intéressait, c'est les jeunes filles à cette école veulent avoir.
Oui, elles le voulaient?
Oui, elles demandaient ça.
Mais c'est l'administration.
Elle est très malheureuse quand son instructrice est partie.
In addition to their pursuit of new language skills, Manoir Westmount has equipped a library inside the building for the convenience and pleasure of the residents.
Yes. There's a library, you see there, that you have, there'll be history, there'll be every subject that you could possibly imagine in here. So if you just don't know what to read at any particular time, you can look it up in this book. We may not have them because we're not as big as a public library, you know, but nevertheless, we have a very good choice here. Too many people. Yeah, wonderful. And this one, Lillian Beckwith, I like her writing. Yeah.
Every evening they have something, well, practically every evening they have something going here, either a video or a game such as bingo.
B2. 71. 71. G58. G58. 068. 068. G48. G48. N44.
Almost 44.
N44.
I couldn't even find one.
G50. Oh, 62. Oh, 62. G57. Bingo. We have a bingo.
The holistic approach to the well-being and happiness of the residents is rounded off with a cultural appreciation for music. This group gathers to relax and enjoy some classical music composed by Vivaldi. Much like Vivaldi's music has stood the test of time, so has the Rotary Club of Westmount's Senior Citizens Residence. Manoir Westmount was composed with great skill and care. The result is a resounding success.
I have great admiration for the Rotarians and for what they do. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.